You know, every single living thing on this planet, from the teeniest, tiniest bacterium to the most massive whale, has to solve the exact same problem every single day, and that is how to get energy. It's this universal quest for food that drives pretty much everything. So, how does life pull it off? Let's dive in.
So think about this for a second. How does a giant, stationary tree fuel itself? And then, on the complete other end of the spectrum, what about a tiny, single-celled amoeba just kind of floating around in a pond? They both need to eat, right? But their solutions are worlds apart. And it turns out their two approaches pretty much cover the two master strategies for all life on Earth.
So it all boils down to this. On one side, you have the autotrophs. You can just think of them as the self-feeders. These are the amazing producers of the world, organisms that literally make their own food. And on the other side, you've got the heterotrophs, the other feeders. We're the consumers, the ones who have to get our energy by eating other living things. Producer or consumer, every single life form falls into one of these two camps.
Okay, so first up, let's talk about the producers. These are nature's own solar-powered chefs. We're talking, of course, about plants and their absolutely brilliant process for making food from scratch, photosynthesis.
So what is it really? Well, photosynthesis is this incredible chemical magic trick where green plants take really simple stuff from their environment and use the power of sunlight to turn it into their own food. I'm not exaggerating when I say this single process is the foundation for almost every food chain on this entire planet.
The best way to think about it is like a recipe. Okay, so first, the plant breathes in carbon dioxide from the air through these tiny little pores on its leaves. Next, its roots suck up water from the soil. Third, it needs the energy source, good old sunlight. And finally, the secret ingredient, the real magic, is chlorophyll. That's the green stuff in the leaves that acts like a tiny solar panel, capturing all that sun energy.
So when you mix that carbon dioxide in water, give it a blast of sunlight, and have chlorophyll do its thing, you get two amazing products. The first is a carbohydrate, basically sugar, which the plant uses for energy. It's food. And the second product? Well, it's something we literally can't live without: oxygen. That's right, the very air we breathe is just a byproduct of plants making their lunch. How cool is that?
But what happens when a plant can't follow this recipe? Well, this is where it gets really interesting. It turns out some plants have gone rogue. They've become heterotrophs. They break the rules and find other ways to get their food.
And some of these exceptions are just fascinating. First, you've got parasitic plants like Cuscuta. It doesn't even have chlorophyll. It just latches onto a host plant and steals all its nutrients. Then there are the insect eaters, like the pitcher plant. Now, it can photosynthesize, but it grows in really poor soil, so it has to trap insects to get extra nitrogen. And finally, you have saprotrophs, like mushrooms and other fungi. They're nature's cleanup crew, getting all their energy from dead and decaying stuff.
All right, let's switch gears and talk about the ultimate heterotrophs, animals. Since we can't make our own food, the animal kingdom has developed an absolutely mind-boggling diversity of ways to find it and eat it.
I mean, the variety is just wild. You have bees and hummingbirds that have evolved to just suck up nectar. Pythons are famous for swallowing their prey completely whole. A ton of aquatic animals just filter tiny bits of food out of the water. And of course, there's chewing, which is what we humans are pretty good at. Each method is perfectly adapted to what that animal eats.
But you know, getting the food into your body, that's just step one. What happens next is this incredible, complex journey of digestion, where that food gets broken down into the actual fuel that powers every single one of your cells.
In us humans, that journey follows a long, winding road called the alimentary canal. It all kicks off in the mouth, right? Chewing, saliva, that's the start of digestion. From there, the food goes down the esophagus, into the stomach, then into the super important small intestine, then the large intestine, before, well, you know, the waste is finally removed.
And don't think of the stomach as just some simple holding bag. Oh no, it's a chemical powerhouse. It's got a layer of mucus to protect itself, powerful acid to kill off nasty bacteria, and all these digestive juices that get to work tearing apart complex proteins.
Okay, so the next stop is the small intestine. And get ready for this because this is a wild fact. Yours is around 7.5 meters long. That's almost 25 feet, all coiled up inside you. So why so long? It's all about creating a massive surface area for the main event, absorbing all those valuable nutrients into your bloodstream. It's a masterpiece of biological engineering.
And how does it absorb things so well? Well, the secret is something called villi. The inside walls of the small intestine are covered in millions of these tiny finger-like projections. They increase the surface area like crazy. Think of it like a shag carpet instead of a tile floor. This gives nutrients a huge area to pass into the bloodstream and get carried off to the rest of the body. It's a really, really clever design.
But hey, our digestive system isn't the only way to do things, not by a long shot. Let's compare it to a grass eater, like a cow. While we've got one stomach chamber, a cow has a highly specialized system. The most important part is the rumen. It's this huge compartment where it can quickly swallow and store a bunch of grass to start breaking it down.
And that leads to this really unique process called rumination. That partially digested grass, which is now called cud, gets sent back up from the rumen into the mouth to be chewed all over again. That's what chewing the cud is. And it's absolutely essential for breaking down the super tough cellulose in grass, something our simple stomachs just can't handle.
And hey, remember that little amoeba from the very beginning? Even this single-celled creature follows the same basic principles. It uses these false feet, called pseudopodia, to reach out and completely surround a food particle. That food gets trapped in a little bubble called a food vacuole, where digestive juices go to work. And finally, the vacuole just moves to the edge of the cell to push out the waste. Ingest, digest, expel. See? It's the same story, just on a microscopic scale.
Okay, let's zoom back out. All this, making food, eating food, digesting food, it's all part of a much bigger, never-ending cycle. After all these organisms use up the nutrients, how do they get back into the system so the plants can use them all over again?
Well, one of the most critical steps in this whole thing is called nitrogen fixation. Plants need a ton of nitrogen to build proteins, but they can't just grab it from the air, where it's super abundant. This is where certain bacteria, like rhizobium, come in. They're like tiny alchemists living in the roots of plants like peas and beans. They take that useless nitrogen from the atmosphere and convert it into a form the plant can actually absorb. They literally fertilize the soil, setting the stage for the entire cycle to begin again.
So you see, you have this incredibly elegant, perfect cycle, right? Plants make food from sunlight, animals eat the plants, and then bacteria return the nutrients back to the soil. This beautiful system fuels our entire planet, which of course leaves us with one last big thought. What happens when a link in this chain gets broken?